Our God is not a God of scarcity. He is one of abundance. And so we should be approaching our love stories not as like, oh, I'm single and this feels like a badge of shame. No. God has abundance for your story, whatever that is going to look like, because that's in his nature.
Why, hello, everybody. It's your girl, Kate here. And oh my goodness, a lot has happened since we were last on with you guys. Right now, JJ is not co-recording this intro with me because he is currently in his Prius traveling the almost 30 hours across the country to our new home in Franklin, Tennessee. Oh my goodness. So as of this week, we have officially moved to Franklin, Tennessee from California. It is so surreal and so incredible. Oh my goodness. On top of that, we just had a baby girl. Eleanor May Tomlin was born on leap year day, February 29th, 2024. And in case you missed it, I did indeed labor for pretty much 40 hours. So that was no joke, but JJ was an actual dream during the whole process, and I could not have gotten through it without him. So there's just a few updates from the Tomlin side of things, and I'm sure when JJ is back with me next week, we'll have even more things to say together. But for right now, I am so pumped because we have a mini series that's going to be going on for the next 8 to 10 weeks, and it's all on online dating, y'all. I realized that we never had a full-blown season on online dating, so I've taken some of our best episodes from the archive, and we are bringing those back and giving you everything you need to know about online dating. And actually, today's episode to kick off this series is from HODC 2023 from a very beloved, dear friend of Heart of Dating, Hannah Brencher, and she did an entire talk at HODC 2023 in Atlanta on online dating. This episode and this talk is the best episode to start out the season because she gives you her story of how she met her husband Lane online, and she talks through all the ins and outs of online dating, her best tips, and it is so good. So we wanted to start off super practical in this series. And what to expect the rest of the series, we're going to talk more about online dating. We're going to talk about going on dates with multiple people. We're going to talk about ghosting. We're going to talk about the stigmas around online dating and so many other things. So you are going to want to listen each and every week. And you know, it is springtime and a perfect time of year to get out there and go on some fun dates and start a new season by getting online. So let's do this, y'all. Let's dive into the first episode in this mini series with our girl, Hannah Brencher.
My name is Hannah Brencher. I am an author and an online educator who lives here in Atlanta. I'm also an unofficial matchmaker and a catcher of catfish. So if you have either of those, come and find me because you've never seen a catfish hunted down until you've hung out with me. Oh yeah. Trust me, I pay for all the subscriptions for the background checks. Like I said, I live here in Atlanta. I moved to Atlanta 8 years ago. I thought it was gonna be a phase. My whole family thought it was gonna be a phase. And about a year later, I got on a dating app. I met a man who opened up car doors for me and said, yes, ma'am. And I was like, nope, this is not a phase. This is not a drill. And now we have been married for 7 years, and we have a 2-year-old daughter named Novalie. She was born a week after everything shut down in the pandemic, so to me, she is still a newborn because time stopped in the pandemic. Does anybody else still feel like you're like, no, it's 2020, for sure it's 2020? Yes, time is weird. But she is 2 years old, and she is so fun. And if you've ever heard me speak before, I typically speak on the Bible. I talk about mental health. I talk about establishing routines and rhythms. But today I get the pleasure of speaking on the topic of online dating. Woo, right? Some of you are like, I don't even want to go here, but I'm glad you're here, okay? And my hope in all of this is that we can just have an honest conversation about online dating. What we like, what we don't like, what needs to change in us. I didn't want to come here with a presentation. I started writing out points, and then I was like, I have way too many points, so we're just gonna go hard in the paint. And we're just gonna have a talk about the ins and outs of online dating. Because whether you're on the apps or not, we can't deny that there is definitely still a stigma inside the church and outside the church regarding online dating. And so we're gonna approach that stigma, and I'm gonna share my personal experience with you, because trust me, I should be the poster child for online dating. I did it all the right ways, and I did it all the wrong ways. So I am an open book to you. I messed up so that you don't have to. So a quick disclaimer before anything else, I just want to recognize in this moment that online dating can be hard. It can be fun, but it can also be hard. And I think we just have to say that apps are hard. A lot of times the things that are happening on our phones are hard because we're living in a different culture where these devices have started to take over everything. And it's been especially so since the pandemic, since we were all shut up inside, that this was the only real way that some of us could meet people. I want to say that sometimes you're gonna meet people that are not responsible with these apps. And I wish I could change that, but I can't. And sometimes it's gonna feel like you're playing a bit of a game, or it's a gamified experience, and sometimes it can feel like a shopping experience where you are an option in a sea of other options. And so I don't want to belittle that. I wanna talk about that up front. So whether you've had a good or a not good online dating experience, I just wanna say that I'm not belittling your experience if it has been a hard situation. The other thing that I want to say is that I am not pro-app or against apps. I don't want to push you to do something that does not feel right for you. I want to come and say that apps to me are neutral. They are a tool that can help you meet someone who is also looking to meet someone. Because the reality is a lot of times we're just not meeting in person anymore. And it doesn't mean that we can't, but I'm sure every one of us has that dream, right? That you like bump into the person in the bookstore, or like in aisle 7 of Whole Foods. That's where the person's gonna be. Men in the room, if you would just go stand in the aisle of Whole Foods, like aisle 7, you will have a wife by sundown. Like, I can guarantee that. But here's the thing, regardless of how we feel about the apps, God is sovereign over the apps. And God is sovereign over your story, whether an app is used in your story or not. And so I want to pray, and then we're just going to dig right in. God, I thank you so much for this time to get to have an honest conversation, to get to enjoy one another, to get to laugh, God, to take a topic that can sometimes feel hard to navigate, God, and just release it from the stigmas, God. You're sovereign over our stories, God. You're sovereign over these conversations, God. And so I just pray right now that you would just come and you would take over, God. You do these talks so much better than I do, so just come and have the microphone, God. I ask all of this in your beautiful Son's name. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay, so if someone had told me about 10 years ago that I was going to meet my future husband on an online dating app, I would have laughed square in their face, like, no way. So much so that I had a little blog on the internet back in the day. I think I was 22 years old when I wrote this blog post about how I was going to meet somebody in real life. That was going to be my story. I was going to meet them in aisle 7 of the grocery store, and we were gonna bump into each other, and he'd have like Walt Whitman poetry tucked under his arm, and it would be the start of a great love story. And I will never forget a comment that somebody left on my blog that said, hey, I think you probably were like well-intentioned in writing this, but me and my husband met online, and our story is no less special because that happened. And that hit me in my core, because I want to challenge you to think about what you actually believe about online dating. Think about it. Bring that to God. Because whatever you believe about online dating, it's going to affect how you go into online dating. If you look at online dating and you're like, it's a gauntlet out there, then you're not going in with a very positive mindset. Whatever you believe about online dating is affecting other parts of your life. And I might even say it's affecting the relationship that you have with God. Because I had to realize at that time in my life that what I thought about dating apps was that people who aren't good enough to meet someone in person have to meet someone online. That's what I thought. People who aren't good enough to meet someone in person have to meet someone online. And there is an issue right there. And that is one of many lies that I needed to get over. Now let me free you with that lie if that is something that you have believed. Because it's not about how you meet, it's about who you marry. It's not about how you meet, it's about who you marry. And now I know that we were raised to want a rom-com story. We were raised to expect Taylor Swift songs coming out of everyday life. I mean, for some of you in the room, like, you've seen like promposals, right? And flash mobs. And sometimes people getting asked to go to prom is like more extravagant than somebody's marriage proposal. And even that, like my marriage proposal, like my 80-year-old grandfather did not come flash mobbing out from behind a tree. That didn't happen. But I think that's the culture that we live in, and I always take the advice of my mom. She said to me years ago, she says, if it starts with an explosion, it typically ends with an explosion. Wisdom, right? Yeah. But here's the thing. If you do your relationship right, then how you met will become the least exciting part of your story. And that is my prayer for everyone in this room, that how you meet will be the least interesting part of your love story. You don't need a crazy how you met story. You need a crazy how we managed to meet over and over and over again story. When it was good, when it was hard, when it was holy, because that is marriage. It is meeting somebody at different junctures of life in unexpected circumstances, when things change, when hardships hit, when pandemics come along. It's saying, I choose you. I put all the other options aside and I choose you. And we are going to figure out how to meet each other over and over and over again. You see, I don't look at my husband and say, all thanks to that app Hinge. No, I say all thanks to God that he was put in my path. Like, just in the same way that if any of you take my advice today and you go to the aisle 7 of Whole Foods, you're not going to say, all thanks to Whole Foods that I met my future wife. No, all thanks to God. And so I humbled myself at some point in my story, and I got on the dating apps. And friends, I wish I could have gone back to that girl, and I wish I could have changed my attitude from the beginning, because when I first started dating online, I dated like we were in the midst of an apocalypse. Like, whoever I matched with, this was the last eligible match on the planet. So like, had to make it work. And I mean, I was on all the apps for all the wrong reasons. Like The Bachelor, I was here for the wrong reasons. And there's a lot of them out there. I can't break them all down for you, but there's Hinge. Anybody here tried Hinge? Okay, back in the day, Hinge was a mutual friend on Facebook. That would be your reason why you met, kind of like a door hinge. There's Tinder, there's Farmers Only, there's Coffee Meets Bagel. That one was trippy, that was weird, because the men were actually bagels and they were delivered every day. But I talked to somebody last night, and that app has stepped up its game, so props. There's Match. Is eHarmony still around? Okay, here's the thing. I think it's great if you want to pay to play. I think that's amazing. That means you're serious. You are investing in the relationships. Let's not knock it, because people are putting money into something that matters to them. But here, I was on all of them. And like I said, for the wrong reasons. Because I wanted to feel desired. Because I didn't want to miss out. Because I wanted to find my person, and deep down, I believed that I could do a better job than God could. The lie was believing God's not working, so I should be. And so, again, like I said, I started with points, so this would have been a point, but then I said, no, there's just too much here. If I was to make a point right now, I would say it is important to know your why and test your motives. Why are you using dating apps? What is your attitude going into this? How can I keep Christ at the center of this? Take inventory for yourself. Because I know what I was doing was I was allowing God to come and be in all these other areas of my life, but my dating life was off limits. It was the thing that I was going to handle. And it was also because I was doing it in all